Good evening, everyone. In the words of Marion Wright Edelman, democracy is not a spectator sport. I would like to start off tonight by congratulating and thanking each one of our candidates for having the courage, the commitment, and the desire to want to serve our community in the capacity as an elected official. So thank you. Welcome to the Upland 2020 Mayor's Candidate Forum. We are very excited to have everyone participating. Upland Election 2020 is a nonpartisan, non-issue specific group of Upland residents whose goal is to offer the candidates an opportunity to share their points of view with the voters. To get things off tonight, I'd like to introduce Matt Scholl, the youth pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Upland, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation.
Do we begin with the pledge first or the prayer first?
Okay.
All right, right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
with liberty
and justice for all.
It's an honor for me to be able to bring the invocation on, so I really appreciate it. Would you bow your heads with me and join me in prayer? Gracious God, we thank you for your presence here, and we ask for your guidance in all that we do. Thank you for the leadership represented with these candidates. Thank you for the way they love the city of Upland and are working toward truly making this a city of gracious living. In this tumultuous time of civil unrest, may our city, our people, our leaders show the world that love is stronger than hate and that light is stronger than darkness. We ask that you would grant these leaders the wisdom they seek, that they would be honest and kind and courageous, seeking what is best for the people of this city. May they see with clear eyes, and may they listen with open minds and open hearts. We ask for your blessing. Amen.
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 Thank you, Pastor Scholl.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank Carlos Garcia from FYI Technologies for stepping in at the very last minute to assist us to ensure that we can broadcast this forum across multiple platforms. We are, as I mentioned, a small group of citizens that technology is not our strong suit, and it was great that he was able to step in to ensure that we can keep moving forward. So thank you, Carlos. We really appreciate your willingness to help us at the last minute. So I wanted to go over a little bit of the ground rules for tonight. And so I have a very non-high-tech way that we're going to decide the order of speaking. We're going to do that by a random draw. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement. The candidate who makes the first opening statement will be the one that will make the last closing statement. We have drafted some written questions with community input, and the audience can also submit questions through Facebook. So we have individuals that will be looking at that. I do want to let you know that your questions may be edited to ensure that they are appropriate and in the spirit of the forum that we are hosting today, which again is voter education. So this is a forum to hear from the candidates, and it is not planned as a debate or to hold anyone accountable for any specific point of view and or vote from the past. As the forum moderator, I will randomly select a question from my very scientific jar of questions to ask each candidate. The candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to the question without interruption. Once a candidate has fully responded, if another candidate would like to add any information to that answer, we will give candidates up to 30 seconds in order to add to that. We will, though, allow the original candidate who had the question to close off the answer if they so choose. So it's really up to the candidate as to how much information you want to share or not share. Our very own Heidi Hall will be giving a 15-second warning when we get near the time, just to keep everyone, including me, on track, and a signal when the time has expired for an individual. We anticipate that each candidate will answer approximately 5 questions, and it will really depend on how much dialogue goes back and forth. We really want this to be about the candidates and what information you would like to share with the voters. And lastly, as I mentioned, each candidate will be able to provide a 2-minute closing. So does anyone have any questions regarding the format? And if not, then I can randomly select to see how we're going to start tonight. All right. Councilmember Bill Velta, I have you're up for the first, for the opening statement, followed by Alex Novikov, followed by Lois King-Dieter.
All right. Thank you, Shelley. Good evening, Upland residents. My name is Bill Velta. I'm campaigning for mayor of Upland. As your mayor, I am committed to serve all residents. I believe in governing with transparency, honesty, and ethical leadership. Public safety, including fire, police, streets, alleys, sidewalks, trees, and other public infrastructure using fiscally conservative disciplines are the priorities that I will strive for as mayor. I support our Upland Police Department, and I'm determined to find ways to assist our Chief of Police, Darren Goodman, in his efforts to increase staffing and to provide the service needs for the residents and those that visit Upland. I'm endorsed by the Police Officers Associations. I support strategic growth for Upland, which much match the community needs. Upland has very few remaining parcels available for development. I also understand the need to support the revitalization of historic downtown Upland. I am pro-business. It is critical that the city council support businesses and those that create job growth throughout the entire city. Historic downtown Upland must be a priority. I'll recommend and encourage the city staff to find grants and other means to enhance the downtown area. I recognize the need to support business development in districts 3 and 4 to meet the needs of the residents. Too many vacant buildings and opportunities to fill those vacancies have passed, and the need to change. This needs to change. I'll make recommendations and encourage the city staff to find additional ways to decrease vacancies and increase businesses in districts 3 and 4 that will generate revenue to support the needs of Upland residents. I am a Navy veteran. I firmly believe in public service and served on the Upland Planning Commission for many years before being appointed to the Upland City Council. I also served on the Mount San Antonio College Real Estate Advisory Committee and served on local candidate reviews committees. My family have been residents of Upland for almost 60 years. I witnessed Upland grow from 16,000 residents to 77,000. I attended Upland schools, participated in the youth and adult sports program. My wife, Jody, and I raised 4 children in Upland. I have been also operated a successful real estate company and escrow company in Upland for almost 30 years. Please vote for me, Bill Velta, your next mayor. We must all come together to make Upland a better place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex Novikov.
Good evening, dear Upland residents. And first of all, I would like to thank Shelley and Heidi and everyone who is involved in organizing this forum tonight and giving us an opportunity to speak. I'm disappointed that the incumbent candidate, current mayor, is absent. I think voters want to hear from all of us, and I value forum as an example of transparency that is part of the democratic process. I'm Alex Novikov, and I bring with me 13 years as a resident of Upland. My expertise as an independent business owner, producer, recipient of multiple awards in government affairs, graduate student at UCLA Anderson Business School of Management, where I'm enrolled in #1 part-time MBA program in the USA. In 2004, I applied for and was selected for the U.S. Department of State's Young Leadership Fellows for Public Service program based on my work as chief specialist in the Ministry of Foreign Economic Relationships, where I worked with and linked local companies interested in exporting goods with foreign counterparts. Under Young Leadership Fellows for Public Service program, I was enrolled in a graduate program at Cal Poly Pomona when I became a part of the community, and I really loved it. In 2007, I came back to America and received O1 visa, which is awarded to individuals with extraordinary abilities in sports and science. Surprisingly, my expertise in dance qualified me for the visa. In America, my wife and I opened a dance studio, which is now recognized as one of the top studios in the nation, producing national and world champions. I proudly report that my children share our love of dance. My son Daniel holds 13 U.S. national titles and 10 world titles. You've probably seen my son and my wife being on the America's Got Talent season 11, who successfully competed there. I had the privilege of serving as a planning commissioner. I took to heart the democratic idea of citizen participation. For that, we need transparency, outreach, and solicitation of the public's input. This is particularly true as developments are changing the character of Upland. It is this spirit of community together that motivated me to run for mayor and which brings me today to this forum. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Lois?
Thank you, Shelley. Good evening, Upland residents. As a 31-year resident of Upland, I first moved to District 4 in 1989 and then bought a home in District 1 in Acacia Park. I offer new leadership and a new direction for Upland as your next mayor. I believe all Upland residents deserve public safety, fiscal conservatism, transparency, adequate parkland and open space, and a stop to cronyism. I am pro-business, smart development. I support the historic downtown Upland. I support all environmental laws. We also need to generate revenue and shop Upland, especially during this COVID economic recession. As an environmental and a mechanical engineer, I have a master's in environmental science, which included urban planning, which will serve me well in the city of Upland. I also have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and a certificate in achieving and maintaining environmental compliance. My husband, Ralph, is a professor of economics at LA College. My stepson attended Upland High School. My stepdaughter is a forensic scientist. We are active members of the Grace Lutheran Church in Upland. My leadership experience includes being chair of the Upland Parks and Recreation Committee under the tenure of Mayor Nolan. As the Parks and Recreation Committee, the team, we revised all master plans for all parks to include building McCarthy Park and San Antonio Park. I'm a 31-year dues paying member and past president of the National Federation of Federal Employees. Thank you so much. Vote for Lois Sicking-Dieter.
Great. Thank you. All right. We will start right in with questions. And Council Member Velta. California has an abundance of rules and regulations related to planning and land use. What role do you feel elected officials play in ensuring the city's compliance with those rules and regulations?
Could you repeat that question? Because I kind of lost you a little bit.
All right. California has an abundance of rules and regulations related to planning and land use. What role do you feel elected officials play in ensuring the city's compliance with each of those rules and regulations?
As far as leadership in the city, the council, what the council's responsibilities are is to, one, vote to approve, vote to deny, or make recommendations. And we hire a city manager who has a staff. And we rely many times on the staff's experience to present the information to the council. We are not there to manage, we're there to govern. We're not there to write policy, we're there to govern. What makes a council effective and a commission effective is people with diverse backgrounds and understandings or disciplines. And that always helps collectively because there are people that have stronger understandings of things than others. But I think the role, again, of the council is to make sure that the right people, the right city manager hires the right people to present the information to the council. Now, if you ask what needs to be, what other issues are there, we know it's CEQA. CEQA prevents a lot of things from happening in our city. And a lot of people don't understand CEQA, and it's difficult until you've been around it enough to understand what is important about CEQA. But CEQA right now has been used to a point where it slows down development. Now, I'm for smart development as long as it meets the needs of the community. So I want to make sure that the staff that the city has are the top shelf people. And that's who we got. We got to make sure we always have top shelf people providing proper information to the staff so the council can make those recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other candidates like to chime in? Ms. Dieter?
I think my perception is that some members of the city council do not review the staff report. There are other members that do, and those members enter into a dialogue with experts within the community. I am disappointed sometimes when I hear city council not familiar with what's under review. And for those who have really put their heart and soul into items like CEQA, I have a background in CEQA. CEQA is the people's document. It doesn't slow down growth, it promotes growth, but you have to know people who know CEQA who will implement it up front. CEQA is for the people.
Great. Mr. Novikov, would you like to add anything? Okay, you're on mute, I believe.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I muted myself. No, I would not add anything at this point.
Okay, Councilmember Velta, would you like to offer any closing comments?
Just to be clear, CEQA has slowed down progress in production of development for years. It's been proven, and that's why the governor has the right to overrule it and have big developments done. Coliseums, centers. SoFi is an example of the governor saying, and we don't have to do CEQA on that. So I think it's important that the city council rely on staff to provide the information. And yes, local residents will reach out to council members and give their opinion. So we got to make sure that the opinions are effective. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. This question is for Mr. Novikov. The city of Upland, like many municipalities in California, faces large financial burdens related to pension obligations. How do you plan to address the issue of past, present, and future pension liability facing the city of Upland?
Thank you very much, Shelley, for the question. I think we have to hire the best experts in this area who can help us guide and navigate in this question. So it's not an easy one, I'll tell you honestly. I did my research on the pension bonds, and it's a tricky question. I know that from one point of view, for the employees, for the city employees, they can benefit from this. But we need to remember that once we're in it, once we issue the bonds, we don't have really the way out of it. So we also don't know what is the economic situation will be in the upcoming future. So there are a lot of uncertainties. So I would probably say that having the best brain in the finance department, and I did consult on this subject with one of the top 4 finance people in the world, actually. And the answer was very interesting, right? So there is, pros and cons to it. So I would suggest the upcoming situation will give us, more information on what is the best to do. And I would always look for the expertise from the people who are specialists in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the other candidates like to offer?
Let Lois go first.
Okay.
Bill, I was going to say let Bill go first.
I saw your hand go.
Beauty before brains, Bill. You go. You're handsome.
No, you go. All right. Ladies first.
I don't buy that.
Okay, well, I was trying to.
But I will. No, I will now. Okay, you can start my time. So far as the unfunded pension bonds, thank you to the council member that brought that topic up at the last at a recent council meeting. We need to start that conversation, the first of many. We have $122 million in unfunded pension liability. We pay $6 to $7 million per year on interest, and it's only growing. There have been some measures taken, but what we need to do is go a little further. The new employees are paying more into their pensions to fill the gap. And are they paying the maximum allowed by law? And current employees need to pay the maximum allowed by law. Some already are, some police officers.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Velta?
What's really nice is we had residents reach out. Matter of fact, Carl Bunch reached out many times, talked about the bonds. And I'm glad that that was brought forward to be for discussion. You have to just have a discussion, first of all, and find out the pros and cons. We've got an excellent finance director in Stephen Harker right now, and he actually understands this. So he's reached out to numerous finance directors of other cities, and we've directed staff to do that, to find out how the bonds are working out for those cities. And I think, again, it's something we have to look at, because the PERS was super funded when they raised it, and now it's underfunded, and it's continued down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Novikov, would you like to make any additional comments to close out this question?
I would be very brief. I think we do need to refer to some neighboring cities who have successfully issued the bonds and actually see what was the result. I think if we seek for that expertise, that will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The issues are complicated, and they go across federal, state, and local lines, and we wish they were easy, and unfortunately they're not. So, okay, the next question is for Ms. Sicking-Dieter. What are your top 3 priorities if elected as the mayor of Upland?
Thank you, Shelley. My top 3 priorities are what the residents of Upland have shared with me as I've been campaigning. We, the people, have concerns. Public safety, number 1, and giving Chief Goodman the resources that he needs to continue to enhance the level of safety that he can provide to us, the blanket of security that we live under 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At this point, he is underfunded. The busiest traffic intersection is at Campus and 16th. We don't have much traffic enforcement. We have so much to do out there. We have 67% of the officers on the street right now that we had in 2010. And there's a lot that goes into that. So public safety is number 1. Thank you, Chief Goodman, for all that you've done so far. And of course, the CalPERS unfunded pension obligation, which I spoke to, of $122 million. And the culture of sidestepping the rule of law. All laws, Upland Municipal Code. I have heard so many people come in, applicants with projects saying, meets the Upland Municipal Code. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Or the zoning or the land use, but that's okay. It takes time and time to figure these things out. We have a lot going for us in Upland, especially we're in the COVID recession right now, but we have a lot of strengths going for us. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you. Would the candidates like to add anything?
Yes, I think revenue tops the list of Upland's challenges and what we need to be looking at revenue, because without revenue, we can't fund the police. And public safety also includes the streets, trees, alleys. Public safety is not just the police department. We have infrastructure for safety. So we have to make sure that not only do we meet the needs of our police department, which is staffed at levels from 20 years ago, that we also look at our infrastructure issues in our community. That's it, and follow it up with transparency.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
And
Alex?
I would like, Shelley, yes, I would like to add to this. besides what already was mentioned by Bill and Louis, which I totally agree with, we need to think about how our small businesses in Upland will thrive, especially after pandemic time. We need to come up with some great solutions for them. We need to reach out to all the nonprofit organizations that are around, the organizations that help businesses, and we need also to think about what businesses we can bring to the city that will complement the ones that we already have, and that will help us to generate the needed revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, go ahead, Ms. Dieter.
Thank you, Shelley. We have a lot of, we need revenue. Okay, we've been working on it. We need revenue. What I don't understand is bringing in projects like the Amazon Logistics Center that does not generate long-term revenue. Actually, it's more a negative. So we really need to bring in revenue and do it seriously. This problem that we have has been 20 years in the making. The San Bernardino County Grand Jury issued a report last year because people were saying we're in such poor financial condition. They said, well, we're similar to other cities, except we have a humongous unfunded pension liability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that we are back to Councilmember Velto. I'm going to jump to a question from the audience, and I'm going to consolidate a couple of questions that individuals are very interested in knowing your view on bringing growth to downtown Upland and what your ideas are in improving growth there and revitalization.
Well, what we really need to do is get people to go down there. So we've got to make it some sort of a destination. And we've got the railroad there. So we've got to find a way to get more people to come to downtown Upland. So it has to become more inviting, number one. Number two, we've got to get some development down there. There's a couple of projects that are planned for some apartments down there. The bottom line is we got to get people down there spending money. And the Shop Upland campaign, when I first was appointed to council, I contacted Upland Chamber of Commerce and pushed for the Shop Upland to be brought back into reality. So I think the more and more we focus on the idea of the new park downtown and the idea of finding more businesses, we have some businesses that are going to come down with this COVID. You know, it slowed everything down for people to open up restaurants. And if we can get a few more restaurants down there, maybe a couple more microbreweries, and get people to come to the downtown area and put a park in, get the park in there so people can bring their children. We've got some little parklets we're putting in that are going to have picnic tables on them. So we're going to be able to do these kind of things. And the idea occasionally of shutting down the downtown and doing some festivals, some live music events on weekends, these kind of things would help bring people to the downtown. So I think the first thing we got to do is we got to get people to come down there. We've got to make it a destination. We've got the railway. We've got to create its own identity. And it has over the years. Great people down there have been involved over the years, but we have to revitalize it. We've got to get more money into the hands and get the streets cleaned up down there. I know what I mean? And they get cleaned up where it looks more attractive. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Novikov.
Yes, I would like to add a couple points. Number one, we need to listen to our residents. I'm sure there's so many talented, bright residents who love our city. They will tell us what our city needs. That's number one. Number two, I think restaurants, a couple high-end restaurants will add to this. I know myself when I'm looking for places to eat, I do visit a lot of Upland restaurants already, but a couple, few extra that are desirable will be excellent. And entertainment. We need to bring some excellent entertainment, and we can do it using those new park that we are planning to put in there. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Dieter?
When I moved here in 1989, downtown Upland was the go-to place, especially on a Thursday night farmer's market. I would go by the bank and get more money because I knew I would find pottery, I would find flowers, I would find ice cream, earrings. I could spend so much money. And then I would go into the shops. I spent so much money on Thursday nights. What happened? Sylvia Bianchi was the manager of farmers market at that time. What happened? I think right now I go down there for Lucky Roasters, Daddy-O's, but I don't go down there for a total shopping experience. Work on it.
Great. Would you like to close this topic out, Mr. Velta?
Yes, Alex has brought up a point about more high-end restaurants. A lot of times the property owners don't want to lease a business to a restaurant because of the grease pit and all the extra improvements you got to do. And restaurants have one of the highest failure rates. So he's right. We've got to get some more restaurants down there. But I personally think that it should be smaller type restaurants that do serve a high quality a meal. And I think if we can get those types of things in downtown, up in some gastro pubs in there, we can get some foot traffic downtown where people feel comfortable taking their children down there.
Great. I remember when it was the Thursday night vibrant community, and for a while I believe there were elephant rides and some other things that were happening at the farmers market. So, okay, our next question I believe is for Alex. What ideas do you have to bring our diverse community together and to improve the image of Upland?
That is a great question. I've been thinking about this a lot, and the first thing that comes to my mind is my dream for Upland. We are lacking something that can actually be an example for many cities in America. I think we can build a great family center. It could be an arts, cultural, sports center. We can utilize Fight Place on Foothill Boulevard. The center that will have those restaurants actually on the first ground floor or around it. And then all the activities that we can possibly think about this will be offered there by the top businesses. We can also actually give this opportunity to businesses that we already have that provide services for young people and seniors. And we can also bring other businesses that would like to be in that center. That center will be a center for everyone to come together. Children can come right after their school and stay there till the evening. The problem of picking them up and driving will be eliminated. So that's what we need to put our focus on. And right now, Upland doesn't really have certain businesses that really distinguish us from other cities. I think this center can put us on a map as a cultural capital of Inland Empire, and not only. I have some great ideas that how it can be implemented, because the way I'm coming from cultural capital in Russia. So I hope that one day this dream will come true, and I hope I can find people who can help this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I will ask Mr. Velta if he'd like to chime in before Ms. Dieter.
Hey, diverse community is pretty subjective and open. How do you bring a community together? One, the community has to feel like they're part of something. And we have great schools in our community. We've got beautiful parks. We've got a lot of great things going for us. I served on a youth advisory committee when I was younger, and I want to get a youth advisory committee back in the city of Upland. The Packing House, Alex, is exactly what we need to do with the Packing House. Cultural Arts Center. We need a culinary arts school downtown Upland because the railroads are. There's no more culinary arts schools anywhere between Pasadena and Riverside. They closed them all. Thank you.
Interesting. Ms. Dieter.
Unity for our community. Unity for our community. We have a diverse community, and we do not come together. Or we didn't 5 years ago, but now we have districts. So we do have representation. And here we are at another election cycle, and we're having the last round of fulfilling our district positions. We need to get together, be it at the parks, develop open space, or have community forums. I think, again, a vibrant farmers market would really help, but also a Parks and Recreation Committee with representation from all 4 districts, like we had in 1989. Diverse culture makes us stronger.
Okay, would you like to have some closing comments, Mr. Novikov?
Yes, I think again, I would ask our dear residents to participate and bring up some ideas that can actually, again, improve the image of our city. And maybe one more thing, coming back to Amazon project, we know that we had a mixed opinions on that, and for me it wasn't an easy one, but I know that this is not really the right project in our city, and it can further divide people. So that's where I would still stand on that. So we have to be very careful what projects we bring in, because we need to think in the long term. Right now it's the money, but the money that we're getting will soon be depleted, but the warehouse and the distribution center will stay. And I came here to this city because I want to raise my kids here, and they want to stay in this city. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, our next question is for Lois. Why are you running for the position of mayor of Upland?
I'm running for position as mayor of Upland. Going back to 1989, I moved to Upland, and in 1990s, I worked under Mayor Nolan as chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee. We had representation from all 4 districts. I have such respect for Mayor Nolan and his team. Those were good times. That was when we were a city of gracious living. I want to return to that. I've seen what success looks like. I've seen it. We have gotten off the path 20 years ago, and that's all I'm going to say about that. 20 years ago, we got off the path. Oh, we have vibrant people here talking about the pending obligation bonds. We have Bobby McGee and Steve Page, who are brilliant members within the community that can really help us address the unfunded pension liability. We have revenue streams that have yet to be implemented and realized. Would I love to have a Porto's Bakery here? Oh my gosh. There's a lot that can be done, and I've seen success, and I know what it looks like. And with your help, we the people together can bring it together again.
Okay, would any other candidates like to speak on this question?
Well, the question was, why does Lois want to be mayor? So,
Well, why would you?
Bill, why do you want me to be mayor?
no, I said.
Good question, Shelley.
They asked why I want to be mayor, so that's her question.
Okay.
Thank you for endorsing me, Bill.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question.
Alex.
Sure.
Oh, Alex,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, there's something that, guys, I was thinking about it today. I think among all the candidates here today, I'm the only one who come in from a different country. I was raised in a very severe conditions. I remember very well when the Soviet Union collapsed, the deficit of goods, very difficult situations, guys. And I will forever be very thankful to American government bringing me here. And I have more than anybody this desire to give back to the community, because you cannot imagine how much America gave me and gave me the second life. And every day when I wake up, I'm thankful for this. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I want to pay back to what America gave me. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to close it with any comments, Lois?
Yes, Shelley. I think that my qualifications, my background, my experience in leadership prepares me. I'm uniquely qualified over the other candidates to be the next mayor of Upland. I bring new leadership and a new direction for the city of Upland. And I am passionate about it.
Great, thank you. I'm going to combine a question from the audience for Councilmember Velta, and also with an existing question. If a new piece of infrastructure is proposed, how do you plan to evaluate whether the project is worth implementing? And would you ever entertain support of a building moratorium?
So the question is, how would I know if it's something good or beneficial? Okay, so I think it's important that when staff's the one who brings these projects forward, they bring the projects forward, and we evaluate the projects based on its own merit. Now, we have to be careful on building moratoriums. Number one, people have private property rights, owners have rights also. So you have to be able to weigh out the building moratoriums. Now, people have said we should have moratoriums on certain types of businesses. And yes, we've done that. We've had moratoriums on the massage parlors. We've had moratoriums on other types of businesses. But to just flat outright say a building moratorium, there'd have to be a reason for it. There'd have to be something that was affecting the makeup of the city. It was we have a natural disaster, or to the point where we could not build anymore. So I think a building moratorium is something that it's hard to consider and hard to speculate as whether or not I'd be for it. I don't have enough information to answer that question. Honestly, it'd be easy to say yes and it'd be easy to say no, but without having the facts in front of me, and I think that's why I'm uniquely qualified, because I understand development, I understand what the city's needs are based on my conversations with residents. And no, I think that's just a hypothetical that'd be hard to answer honestly.
Okay. Would Alex or Lois, would you like to add anything?
Alex, do you want to go first?
Louis, go ahead, please.
A building
Yes.
moratorium? No. Based on what data? I can't imagine. Part of my job is to think of different options. I could never think of a reason to have a building moratorium. However, what I do know from my master's program is San Diego said you cannot build unless you have the water source, unless you show that you have are willing to build the infrastructure and that we have the extra water. Okay, so that's called a data-based decision, and that's what I'm all about. But moratorium on building, just that? No, never.
Alex?
I would add one comment here. We need to remember when we think about our city, it's the city that is a bedroom community city. So when we do want to build something, right, or we want to make decisions, we want to keep that in mind, that our dear residents chose to live here because they want to feel that they're safe. The city is quiet, but at the same time, they have places to go where they can bring their children, playgrounds, right, parks. So that should be in the cornerstone of all our decisions that we make. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Velta, would you like to add anything to close this topic off?
The key to development is strategic. In other words, it's got to meet the community needs, the whole community, not just one select group of people. It's got to meet the entire community's needs, and it must be strategic. And we're getting to the point where we have very little undeveloped properties. So we have to make sure moving forward that there's strategic growth. And we have RENA numbers that the state says you must provide so much housing. So we have to meet those needs. And that's one of the obstacles that we have to overcome. That's really difficult balancing act to do.
Perfect. The next question we have is,
Do I get a rebuttal?
It was Bill's question, so I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was mine. Excuse me.
That's okay.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you.
Okay, this question is for Alex. Public participation is critical to ensuring balanced public policy. What steps will you take to increase public participation at all levels of city government?
Thank you, Shelley, for the question. Number one, we need to make sure that our residents are aware about opportunities that our city provides for them to participate. When I moved here in the city, I wasn't really aware about what I became aware later, but only through the grapevine of friends that I had in other cities about how I can participate. And actually, when I became a citizen, right, that was more, it was like an eye-opener for me. So I believe that our city leadership should be more proactive and should bring diverse people to the commissions, to the committees. There should be very clear process of selection. You all know how, like, my recent situation with the Planning Commission went through. When first I was thrown out, and again, this is information that got to me from the council member that the mayor didn't desire me anymore. Then suddenly the mayor or the city invited me back to participate in the interview process. However, at the very beginning, it was very clear that there should be no representative from District 1. This is what I'm talking about. Besides that, the citizens should be aware of opportunities. We need to be clear how we select people and what kind of people we select, what is their background, and what is their expertise. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Additional comments? Louis?
Yes, thank you, Shelley. I think that it is important to have public participation in all things. We used to have significant public participation, but without good leadership at the top, and this mayor doesn't return phone calls, it's hard to talk to her. Oh, actually, she does email you now that she's up for election. She's unapproachable. I've had people, I say, oh, email the city council. Bill responds back, Janice does, Rudy does, but not Debbie at all, okay? But we need more public.
Okay, Mr. Velta?
Okay, one of the first things I brought up was I wanted to see planning commissioners appointed by council members from that district. I think we need to go to some down that path to where you get a council member gets appointed, and obviously the mayor, they'd have to make up a difference. So I understand that. What's very important, I want to see more committees, and actually people get upset when I bring up the idea of more committees. Now, in the public sector, I don't think you need committees because you have an owner of a business. But in the public sector, you have to have committees. In the private sector, you don't have as many committees. Public, you need committees for people to give information back to those that lead.
Wonderful. Alex, would you like to close out, make any closing comments?
Yes, I would like to summarize. Basically, whoever is elected to be the next mayor, guys, should set a great example for all the other executive team members in our city, the council members, and the residents. The residents needs to be proud of their leader, and they want to go and ask and offer their help. I think the true leader will be able to bring the community together and will solve a lot of problems there, and will solve them all locally together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are at Ms. King Dieter. I'm going to ask a question from our audience. And how do you plan on supporting Upland Unified if elected as mayor?
How do I plan to support Upland Unified as mayor? My stepson went to Upland High School. Upland Unified, I think these are COVID times. Everything has changed. Now, what my understanding is that they have transitioned well, better than other schools in this semester. Okay, kudos to them. However, did you know that we have over 1,900 residents getting ready to build? 1,900 residences are in development right now. We don't have the schools for them. What I would like on the 50 acres that regarding the Amazon Truck Logistics Center, if they're able to remove the toxic materials or really do an EIR, we should build a high school there. Or we need more schools. My stepson's counselor was put on a reduction in force. We need to support our teachers. We need to have the community involved more. Some schools ask parents to come in 30 hours a semester. and help out as teacher's aide. I think Upland Unified does a good job, but I think there's more that we could do to support them.
Thank you. Mr. Velta?
I think the best way we can support the Upland Unified, number one, is maybe have a liaison from the city council that just goes to meetings and listens in. The idea of middle high school, they did a study years ago, and there was no need for it. Our population of students is dropping at Upland High School, and so is the population in all of our schools. As the prices of real estate homes go up in Upland, the amount of students at the elementary school level drops. So right now we have schools, some of our schools have less students than others. So Upland High School's population right now is equal to those in the district, except for one or two.
Okay. Alex, would you like to add anything?
Well, I would like to add basically, I think we do need to have a meeting together with their board and listen to their concerns. And I would like to bring back to my idea of having a cultural sport arts center. I think that center can help our youth a lot, promote their health, number one, keeping them busy, obesity problems. I see a lot of the kids right now sticking to their phones. We can actually fix that. We can, instead of thinking about Amazon, we need to think about their health and their future, guys. And that's our future. Thank you.
Okay, Lois, would you like to offer any closing comments?
I think that for Upland Unified, we need to develop a strategic outreach and education campaign for the residents. We need to let them know what's available to them and increase the city's commissions. Thank you.
Okay. And we are back to Mr. Velta. Over the past few years, there has been quite a bit of criticism regarding a lack of transparency on the part of city staff and elected officials. Do you think this criticism has merit? And if elected, how would you work to improve transparency within City Hall?
I think, without any specifics saying there was no transparency, has there been things that maybe the residents felt that there wasn't enough information provided? Course. So one of the things that I would do was, that's one of the things I want to make sure is that's why I ask a lot of questions when I'm on the dais. I ask questions, and I'll ask staff ahead of time or tell them, I'm going to be asking you that question, so you better have the answer. And it's important that staff knows that they're going to be questioned on projects. And I think that helps create transparency. Now, I encourage residents, if they think something's not being disclosed to them or is not transparent, to reach out to me. Let me investigate, because there are many things that are not public information. So, the Amazon project, the Bridges Development Project, a lot of people don't know what that would benefiting the city. Hear nothing. It was a $23 million 20-year business agreement, which meant that we would get $23 million over 20 years on a business development agreement. Unheard of in real estate, in city government, in any of these cities around here. So that was a plus. Now, I get when people feel like they didn't get all the details or didn't go the way they wanted it to go. I understand that, and I accept that's part of leadership. You're going to get the push and you're going to get the pull. But what I can do is I promise the residents of Upland, I will be transparent, honest, and ethical.
Thank you. Lois, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you, Shelley. There is a lack of transparency with city staff and on the council. Again, I'll go back to an original point. I believe that some city council members do not read the staff report. I know there's one or two that do consistently. So far as the staff, I can't tell you how many times we've had to reach out to Bob Dalquist saying, for example, on the vehicle miles traveled, where can I find the 4 options? Oh, I've got a table on that. I can't find it in the staff report. I'll email it to you. You got to do better, Mr. Dalquist. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Novikov?
Well, I'll just bring up one example from my experience again, and that unfortunately, it's about our mayor who's not present today. So when I reached out with just one question in the email as a planning commissioner to all council members and to her, everyone, Bill replied, Janice, everyone replied, but not her. I had to write her a letter. I had to drop it off. I never heard from her. That already says a lot. That means that she's hiding things, she doesn't want to talk. And I think the next leader should never behave like this, should be at least available for the people who are in the process of making decisions in the city as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to close us out on this, Mr. Velta?
Yeah, there's an issue with residents in the community that believe what they believe, and they will attack staff. And staff has facts, and they bring those facts. It's just that some residents don't want to believe them. But the idea behind it is that transparency. And as your mayor, I will make sure that your questions are answered and the information presented to the public is honest and accurate. That's the most important thing.
Thank you. Free speech is a wonderful thing. It doesn't always mean we all agree with it. We agree with people's opinions. Okay. We are on the question this time goes to Alex. Sustainable economic growth is managing our city's resources so they will not be depleted and remain available for the future. Do you believe Upland would benefit from a sustainable economic growth plan? And could you please describe examples?
Shelley, I couldn't hear the very beginning of your question. I would please ask you to repeat it one more time.
Sure. Sustainable economic growth is managing our city's resources so they will not be depleted and will remain available for the future. Do you believe Upland would benefit from a sustainable economic growth plan? And please expand on your rationale with examples.
I think that's a very important question that you brought up right now, Shelley. So I definitely believe in the sustainable economic development in our city. So we need to actively monitor all the projects that are they're available for cities, for municipalities. So we need to see what are the areas that our city hasn't covered yet. And there could be, I would say, such areas, like how do we promote the, for example, the usage of the solar energy, right? Or can another example, right? Do we have a lot of the places where people can charge electrical cars? So actually here I come to one idea. So maybe having an electrical station in downtown can actually help. I have an electrical car. I would drive to go there and leave the car and shop around. I mean, that can be done like this. So right now I like going to Whole Foods place here in Sycamore because they have the charging station. So this is just like a couple examples, and there are many more than we can think about. And thank you.
Great, thank you. Bill, would you like to offer any comments?
Yes. Sustainable economic growth plan is based really on revenue. Until we can increase our revenues, we'll not be able to sustain economic growth. We've had the pandemic. We have all kinds of things that come at cities, the PERS, all the extra goods and service costs are going up. So we have to find ways to increase the revenues, and that's by doing growth, but strategic growth. Now, will it be sustainable? There'll come a time where it'll flatline. That will happen and potentially drop again. It's just the cycle of business.
Lois, would you like to offer some comments?
Yes, thank you. Sustainable economic growth is revenue-based. Here in Upland, our primary source of revenue is from property values. And like Alex mentioned earlier, we are a bedroom community. So we are in an economic crisis right now, but we're going to weather it better than a lot of other communities. We do have a lot going for us, but because we are in a crisis right now every decision needs to be vetted well through the public workshops, and we need to have proper leadership at the top. We need to have a master plan of all vacant lots and how they might best be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, would you like to close any comment? Have any closing comments?
I think my opponents brought up very good aspects of this question, and I will just reiterate and say that finding the businesses that complement the ones that we already have is a good way to go, and we need to also focus on some services. We cannot bring manufacturing plants here, we're a bedroom community, but we can bring services that are not available, guys. I'm taking sometimes my kids outside of the town to Van Nuys because we don't have a high-level school for sports in our city. I know how to bring it here, so we can have it right here. People will come to our city with the families, and the property value will increase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This question, I believe we're on Lois. There has been a request for proposal to procure legal services issued. And what considerations will you be looking at when evaluating proposals for legal representation for the city of Upland? And I'm talking very generically. Right. And I understand. Oh, you're on mute, Lois.
Thank you. That is a very relevant question. After election, those that are elected will go forward, and one of their first jobs is to appoint a new city attorney. There should be a ranking system agreed upon, and the public should know what that ranking system is and have input. So part of that ranking system to me should be their integrity, how many lawsuits they are currently under, and of course, you're going to have lawsuits. That's the nature of being a city attorney. How well they communicate to the public, how well they provide legal advice to the city council. A primary value that I would be looking for is, are they giving advice to the city council on becoming compliant with the laws, or are they giving input on how to go outside the law to still get what they want, but just barely skirt the law? In my opinion, we've had problems with that in the past. And again, I put that down to the current mayor, lack of leadership and lack of engagement with the public. Also, what their coworkers say with the cities that they currently serve would recommend to us if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to chime in, Mr. Velta?
Yeah, I was on that process of hiring a city attorney, reviewing it, and there is a way it's done, very similar. I don't think I've met a city attorney that's ever told you to skirt the law. Matter of fact, they're very, very strict in what they offer as guidance, and sometimes far stronger than the council may think is necessary. These people are professionals, and by asking anybody else what they think of them doesn't matter. What matters is what the council believes.
Alex, anything to add?
No, Shelley, I will not add anything at this point.
Okay, any final closing comments, Lois?
Yes, thank you. The immediate past city attorney took the citizens of Upland to court with an action that the judge deemed he was not authorized to do. The current city attorney had issue with giving us proper legal advice on the ballot question. And finally, the judge had to rewrite the question. I would like him to have gotten it right the first time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bill, we're going to move to you. A question from the audience. Carbon footprint, and that the carbon footprint and areas to increase sustainability within the city of Upland.
Solar. We've started that already at the City Hall, gone solar. Maybe some other business in cities should be increasing. As a matter of fact, the Bridges Development Project, the whole thing was going to be energy efficient. It was going to be solar, use zero carbon footprint when they got done. They were going to have electric vehicles. So we were looking at some projects like that. But a lot of it has to do with what the state and county regulations are. The city is somewhat handcuffed in what they can do. The city the size of Upland. We can offer solar. We can offer just for businesses when they come in to encourage them to put charging stations and things like that. But we're pretty much restricted to what we can do based on the county, AQMD, and things like that. So, the question I think is probably easier answered by Lois than me, even because Lois has a background in that, and that's what I think people like Lois in the community who step up and talk about that helps the council formulate a better process. So I think what I do is I rely on the experts in those fields to share with me as a council member what we should be doing. But I do think that more solar is more effective than and the electric charging stations would be effective also. Thank you.
Alex, would you like to add anything before I move to Lois?
Well, here I would like to add one comment. I think we need to be careful with how much we build in our city, particularly the big apartment complexes and how many units we put, because eventually it leads to a lot of traffic. The traffic leads to a lot of carbon dioxide and all the problems coming out of it. So we need to be really smart about it. So where do we put, how we put, because we don't have much land left. And again, we want to remain as a bedroom community here. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Lois.
Reducing our carbon footprint. What you want is less vehicle miles traveled. We want more charging stations, more walking trails, more bike paths. And yes, solar energy is good. Wind energy, we don't have so much wind here. But to be quick, the quickest gain that we can make is to follow CEQA as much as we can. The draft EIR will go out, and then you'll get input from the community. And we need new leadership at the top that will guide us in the way to reducing our.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that is a topic near and dear to your heart, and that it has been discussed. Carbon footprint has been a buzzword for quite some time now.
Closing the comment. That was my question.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's a lot of talented people in this city, extremely talented people who come to city council meetings and provide a lot of information. And that's what helps sometimes. I disagree that CEQA is the answer. I will disagree with that. But I understand its purpose. Again, I understand its purpose, but I want to make sure that the growth in Upland is strategic growth that meets the community needs. That's the most important thing. And as mayor, I will make sure that happens.
Thank you. Moving on to Alex, very popular topic, our roads and potholes. So what would be your plan to improve the quality of the roads in Upland?
Well, first of all, we need to find the ways to get the revenue. We don't have this money. How can we address the issues, right? So another thing, we need to collect and we need to monitor our roads regularly to see where the problems are happening and how they're addressed. I'll tell you this, where I drive, I see the roads are pretty awesome. And coming again from the country where the roads are super bad, to me, this is paradise, guys. I want to tell you, honestly, you haven't driven the roads where you get stuck and you cannot come out, So to me, it's like here living in California, a lot of people complain about the weather, the storms and everything. And again, they haven't seen the severe minus 70, 80 Celsius, right? Where that's why the roads actually broke apart. So now, yes, I know some residents, and I heard them, they bring this up. Right. So we need to see what are really the most priority, which roads are used a lot. So maybe we need to think about limiting some trucks on some roads. And that's, again, I'm sorry, I'm coming back to Amazon. I think having more vans and trucks, well, we need to think about the roads in that area. So if this project is going to come up, so then, well, we need to now put aside the money for the roads so people will not complain. So it's, I know it's a very big, tough subject, but I want the people, please, to know that there are a lot of other issues right now, especially with the pandemic. We want all of you to be happy and healthy, and then the roads will be fixed. I'm sure with the right mayor, this issue will be completely eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Lois, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you. It's not only our roads, but we have a decaying infrastructure. It's our municipal water system. For example, down on 7th Street, which is being repaired right now, it's not just the roads, but there is a very expensive project, capital improvement project going on because of the plumbing that has to be replaced. The city, Upland, is 100 years old. That's the life of our infrastructure. So we need to select and choose projects. We have a reservoir. I could go on, but projects that are brought in, businesses that are brought in.
Okay, Mr. Velta.
The big word here is revenue. And we do not have the revenue right now. We are actually going to be cutting into our reserves because of this COVID pandemic. We're going to see budget cuts for the next 30 months. And our roads some of our roads are horrific, and some of our roads are getting better. But the problem is that people don't think we can get a sales tax in order to generate revenue. And that's a tough topic to bring to our residents in Upland to say, where are we going to get the money? Upland is a bedroom community. We don't have the retail base that Montclair has, Rancho Cucamonga, and Ontario have.
Alex, would you like to have any closing comments?
To answer these questions, where do we get the money? Amazon. If the Amazon is coming, right? So I think that's what should have been put in the project. They should have taken at least care of the roads in the future, maybe 50% lifetime. So because they will be driving everywhere. And I think at least it should have been considered, and they do have money. Our city is not so huge, so they could chime in and participate in that issue. So that's one of the solutions. Thank you.
Okay, Lois. If elected to the mayor, would you play an active role in the business community? And how would you reach out to identify the concerns of small businesses?
This is a very pertinent question at this time during COVID. We have already been reaching out. I would have to mention Shannon Moust and her Eat Upland, where she has posted all these restaurants. And that started before COVID lockdown. And she encouraged everyone to eat Upland. Absolutely. Thank you, Shannon, for doing that. And we need to help identify things like Polly's Pizza. What I would like to see is that part of that street, talk to the small mom and pop businesses, ask them, first of all, what can we do? Okay, but they know their business better than I do. They know their business better than anyone on the council. We need to reach out to them and ask them how we can support them. I have a lot of ideas. I've gotten input from we the people, the citizens of Upland. but I would like to sit down and collaborate, have a public workshop with those mom and pop businesses and help so that they can help us identify what we can do to help them get through COVID. Right now, shop Upland, eat Upland, don't go anywhere else. We have it all here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, would you like to add anything?
Sure. I think the role of mayor is basically a ceremonial. It's very limited authority and power over the other council members. It really is. But I think we have HDU, and they do a tremendous job in the downtown area. And I think we just need to continue supporting them in their ideas. And if we can support them in their ideas somehow with some more revenues, that'd be helpful. Throughout the rest of the city, we just got to start going after some of these property owners and tell them you got to start cleaning it up. And that's through code enforcement. Again, we need the revenue to increase the amount of budget that we have for code enforcement.
Alex?
Shelley, no, I don't have anything to add. I think great points were brought up. Thank you.
Okay. And Lois, any final closing comments?
Yes, we do have the HDU, and they do a good job, but we really need to ramp up that game. We do. And there's so much that can be done. I believe that historic downtown Upland is a jewel that's hidden. We need to get a group together and talk more about that, but we need to find a way. I've been to cities where they said, start at this restaurant, go to this pub, and then have dessert here. So you would hit 3 different places. Just one idea. There needs to be some collaboration between the.
Okay. Going back to Bill. We've talked a lot tonight about the mayor and the mayor being a leadership position and needing to possess a lot of leadership qualities. Can you give us an example of someone that has inspired you as a leader and why?
You know, I think my father, may have worked out. My father was a tremendous businessman, and he treated everybody fairly. And he always wanted people to walk away feeling like they were treated fairly. And I think when you look at people like my father, a few of my commanding officers in the military that taught me how to be a man, that took me from being this youngster and gave me a lot of advice on what it is to be a man. And leadership is not taken lightly by me. I've been in executive leadership roles, and being in leadership is not about me. This is about the community. This is not about Bill Velta. This is about the community. And being the mayor is just the chairman of the meeting, appoints people to committees, and really controls the tempo of the council meeting. And I do this on a daily basis. My job as a real estate broker is to help people make sound, fundamental business decisions. The city is a business, but it's government. And I want to make sure that with my leadership skills, that I can build consensus among the council members, reach out to the council members, try to find a common understanding as we're on the dais, so that we can go down that path. We may not be going down the path in the exact same direction, but we're going to get to the same place. We've just got to start listening to each other and finding ways to make people feel better about what's going on in Upland.
Thank you. Alex, would you like to add something?
In a way, I would like to echo Bill. My father has been always an inspiration for me. Yesterday, it was 18 years since he passed away tragically, very quickly at the age of 51. And exactly 18 years ago, he was running for a big office position in our city in Russia, where I came from, a big trade city on Volga River. And I was helping him in my campaign. And back then, I was, very much involved. And I couldn't even think that 18 years later I will have to go through this in a country where I was not born. So, but now I think it's his leadership skills. He was an innovator and pioneer in many areas in our city. He was the first one who built a private apartment complex. It was actually during the Soviet time era, and he was always ahead in the game. And I was inspired by a lot of his examples. And today I'm here following his legacy. So I don't know what will be the outcome, but I'm happy that I'm here today, guys, in front of you, thinking about what my dad did and what I can do for my community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Lois.
Yes, thank you, Shelley. Leadership qualities. The mayor is the city's cheerleader. They inspire us, they persuade us, they bring us to a safe place. We haven't seen that in years. I saw it in Mayor Nolan. I did. I also saw it in my father, my mom, and especially Chuck Weck, 60-year resident of Upland, part of this community and Toastmasters. Integrity, dedication to excellence, servant leadership, and respect for every.
Thank you. Okay, I think if the candidates are amenable that we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're getting a lot of questions or a lot of individuals wanting to hear on specific topics. As everyone knows, when we were discussing this forum, that the whole point is that to educate and to introduce the candidates to the voters. And so what I thought we would do is, if Heidi doesn't mind, that I will bring up a topic and that you can speak on that topic for 90 seconds. Whatever direction you'd like to take that topic in. All right. That way I do not have to form the question. Okay. And how we will do that. Okay. So the first topic, and I bet you can all make a little note as to what you think the number one topic is. And the only thing that I'll say is Memorial Park. So I think that let me double check. Where did we leave off there? We just.
That's currently already an issue that was decided. So there's really not much you can say other than it's been discussed and it's going to a vote. Now, I don't know how to discuss it.
Are you timing him, Heidi?
No, I have information that may not, it's more confidential possibly.
Right, and we're not asking, and that's why I wanted to leave this one, that it is not our intent to put any candidate on the spot, okay, or for us to hold any candidate, a current council person, on the spot for any past votes. And that's why I thought that maybe if we were comfortable, I could just say what it is and people could talk whatever aspect that they wanted to talk about. And it could be that it's on the ballot. It's Upland Measure Q, and that it's moving forward.
One comment. I cannot discuss it as a council member. I can't advocate as a council member for or against it. I just,
right.
No. Okay.
And we respect that. We respect that and understand that.
Okay. I just want to make that clear.
Yes. So I will call on Alex first, since he volunteered by raising his hand. Thank you, Alex.
Yes, thank you, Shelley, very much. I think the point here is that we don't have much parkland in our communities. We cannot sell anything. We should not sell any part of the Memorial Park. To me, I was surprised that that issue was even brought up and considered, but I understand that it's maybe a fair act to let the residents decide, because I'm sure we have residents who have multiple complaints about the parking situation with the hospital. But I'm also surprised that the management of the hospital didn't find some other solutions. And the solutions could be use a shuttle service for people when they come to the hospital. Maybe it would be even a cheaper solution for them. Maybe have a valet service where patients come and they take the car and park in their places around the hospital. So to me, it is very clear that this situation should have been considered or resolved differently. And I hope that the residents will make the right decision. So it's right now, like Bill said, it's up to the residents to decide on that. Thank you.
Great. Lois?
Thank you, Shelley. There is the Quinby Act and Upland Municipal Code. The Quinby Act requires, if adopted by the city, and Upland has adopted it under municipal code, it requires a minimum of 3 acres per 1,000 residents. We met that maybe a few decades ago, but then Pioneer was sold off to Lewis Homes. Some Memorial Park land was already transferred to San Antonio Hospital, and without a vote. San Antonio Hospital now leases 2 bits of Memorial Park, which we don't have use of. So we need to take back our parks. We are now, keeping in mind the 3 acres per 1,000 people for a 78,000 population, we're at 51%. In the past 20 years, we have not increased park land. Even though we have increased the number of residents, we have sold off parks. This is detrimental to our health and public safety to a certain extent for our residents. So far as the parking, there is a requirement when there is a new project brought on board that the applicants show that they have the proper amount of parking. Why was that not done when the tower was opened up? They do have enough employee parking. There's empty spaces there, but it's guest parking. Hands off our park. Vote no on Measure Q.
I don't know, Bill, if you'd like to add anything.
This was done before I served on the council. So my only responsibility is to make sure that it's handled fairly. Okay? And that's really the whole point of my comments on it. It must be done fairly. This was done before I was appointed to the council. So I think that the vote from the people will set the record straight. And I agree with Lois. Our parks are very important to us. And I would not have been in favor of that prior to, but when I got there, more information was provided, and I had to allow for a vote to be presented to the public, because there are people that are for it and there are people that are against it, and that's what's great about our democracy. People get to vote.
And I think that is very well put. That I also think that it is short-sighted for anyone to just look at Memorial Park. That in the last few years, there's been a number of different proposals of trading parkland to private development, using that term very, very loosely, private development or entities, that it gets to a philosophical issue overall as a community. How do we feel about that? And that really goes back to what we started and talking about, of wanting voters to be engaged and educated in the issues so they can make informed decisions when they vote. So it's right. So there's a lot of different things, and they're not easy answers. I do not, as I started off, my hat goes off to all of you that have the courage and the willingness to step up to serve in elected office. It is not an easy position to be in. And it is a selfless position to be in, and it is a huge time commitment. So I, thank all of you for doing that and for being willing to serve. And I'm looking through my notes here. Okay, as we're moving towards, let's do one more issue, or an issue that to just see what what your comments would be. And again, you can take those comments in any direction. I think that we know that there's been some controversy over the treasurer's position within the elected treasurer's position within Upland. I will tell you that we've invited the treasurer candidates to participate in the city council forum tomorrow night, and I believe that we have 2 confirmed. I'm looking at Heidi to see that I believe we have 2 confirmed there. But I'm just curious if anybody has any comments as to your thoughts on an elected treasurer and within the city and the role of the treasurer. And it could go in any direction. It's very open-ended.
Okay, the role of the treasurer has already been defined, and I think that's the most important thing. I even had a misunderstanding what the role of a treasurer was until I was investigating. I thought the treasurer was responsible for everything. Well, that's not so. He's responsible for the investments made by the city. Okay, so I go back to the days of Walt Reardon serving as the city treasurer, and I think I don't know what happened with the past treasurer. I don't. I'm not going to fault anyone. I'm not going to fault him. I'm not going to fault city staff. But I think moving forward, I hope that whoever is elected treasurer is willing to meet with each one of us, council members, and myself, hopefully as the mayor, and just to share what their expectations are in that role. And I think their role is defined, and that's all. That's important. That they have a defined role, and that they are treated with respect in that role and given the latitude within that role.
Thank you. Lois?
Yes, I agree that the role of the treasurer needs to be clearly defined. I've been a finance manager. I've been a district treasurer for Toastmasters International, supporting 1,500 members. The role of treasurer is different for the organization that you're in. For the roles and responsibilities that Larry Kinley had, he felt that he was not being allowed to do his full roles and responsibilities. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know. But what I do know is that the current candidates, especially the current candidates, you need to interview them. Ask them that question. Okay? I'm so happy this is a year for electing a new city treasurer. It's a new path forward. And the candidates are new. So we have new leadership coming into Upland. This is wonderful. And I would also encourage residents, in talking to the treasurer, ask them who their resources are. Have they ever been a finance manager or a treasurer? And who their mentors are. I, again, am sorry for what happened to Larry Kinley. I read his resignation letter, and it makes a lot of sense what he said. But again, I wasn't there. Upland residents, please interview the treasurer candidates and make an informed vote.
Great, thank you. Alex?
Yes, Shelley. Well, coming back again to better communication between the treasurer and our city council. I think that is foremost very important element here based on what we heard from past treasurer Kinley. So we should past treasurer Kinley. So we should not fall into the same mistakes. So it should have never happened. And I don't understand why we cannot simply establish better communication. And that's what we need to look into. And then I think everything will be fine. We need to make sure that all the funds are audited carefully. And that's one of the main responsibility for treasurer, right? And then I don't know if we also hire a company to do that, which we do, but the treasurer should definitely keep us informed, all the council members, about the situation with our finances and what direction we should move. He has to be a visionary for our financial prosperity for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. I definitely know that I have some homework to do before tomorrow night to look up what the role of the treasurer is defined in the city of Upland is, so that I'm prepared for our forum tomorrow night. So I think that now we will move into closing statements. If everyone is ready to do that, and if I have the order correctly, we will go backwards, starting with Lois, and Bill, you giving the final closing statements.
Thank you, Shelley and Heidi, for offering this opportunity for us to answer residents' questions. A special thank you to the fellow residents of Upland for sharing your concerns with me. You, the people, have told me that what you believe are the pertinent issues facing the city of Upland right now. Again, public safety and increasing the resources for Upland PD, addressing the CalPERS unfunded pension, and a culture of sidestepping the law. We need growth, we need smart growth, and we need to bring in revenue. We need a master plan for all the vacant lots in the city, and with community interaction, discuss the best fit for that lot for our city to generate revenue. Our problems, we do have financial problems. They were 20 years in the making. We're not going to solve them overnight, but together we can. I offer new leadership and direction for Upland. I believe I am uniquely qualified to be your next mayor. As your next elected mayor of Upland, I will champion these issues for you in our discussions as a city council. Together, we can build a better future to Upland, for Upland. Vote for Lois Sicking-Dieter for mayor. Good night and God bless.
Thank you. I will turn it over now to Alex Novikov.
Dear Upland residents, we're in a time of transition in our community. In recovering from COVID-19, we have opportunities to create a more vibrant city that meets the needs of all residents. My most recent business venture informs me that we can create work even now with vision and ingenuity. When ballroom competition went dark, I produced a 7-day dance festival where competitors and judges met virtually over Zoom platform. What would have been a local event became an international one. It meant gathering a team who shared my vision and dared to risk and made it happen. This project allowed me to provide jobs to nearly 60 professionals around our country, some American citizens who were stuck in Europe without job. Nowadays, we must be really smart. We need to budget well, spend within our means, avoid new taxes, and find new sources of revenue. We must utilize technology and recognize the need for sustainability in construction and transportation. We need to mitigate the cumulative impacts of new projects and ensure that our infrastructure will sustain any growth and enhance the quality of our lives. We must recognize our need for open space, recreation, parks, and maintain amenities for families from its youngest members to the seniors. As a means to this end, we need to do this in the spirit of community together. We need true citizen involvement with the decision-making process that is open and transparent. As a mayor, I will stand for preserving our city's bedroom neighborhoods of single-family homes and moderately sized multiple units. Thoughtful development where impacts like traffic and protecting view lines are scrutinized and mediated. Adequately funded public safety, so police and fire are trained and equipped to meet the community's needs. Smart economic growth, where there is a place for locally owned businesses and large companies with well-paying jobs. This is the right time for the bright ideas. Join me in the quest by honoring me with your vote. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Bill Velta.
2020 has been a challenging year for all of us. For some, far more than others. The COVID pandemic has changed how we live and most certainly how we breathe. It has been a challenge for how we do business. Our youngest, oldest, and those with disabilities are the most vulnerable during this time. The lack of revenue from the pandemic will impact the city's operations and services for the near future, and no one really knows by how much more at this time. The costs for goods and services have increased and our revenues have not. Our city's employees and the leadership of our city manager, Rosemary Hornig, and her executive management team are working hard to meet the increased service demands and continue looking for ways to cut more from their budgets. Our Upland Police Department, under the leadership of Chief Darren Goodman, although understaffed at personal levels less than those 20 years ago, continue to provide protection and remarkable service for our residents and visitors. May also see additional budget cuts or hiring freezes. I am truly grateful that they are there when needed. Upland has very little property available for development. My commitment is to strategic growth based on community needs. The city leadership and city management will continue to find ways to improve historic downtown Upland with already proposed new park and many other improvements soon to be completed. Districts 3 and 4 are priority. These districts need to be a priority for retail and business development. Councilman Rudy Zuniga has been a strong advocate for the needs in District 4, and I will be supporting his vision for the district. And there will be plenty of opportunity in that district for redevelopment of existing properties that have become vacant recently or have been for years. As your next mayor, I will provide the leadership and necessary transparency and cooperation expected from our new city council, for the city manager, city attorney, executive management team, our chief of police, and all city employees, that we work together to continue to make Upland a better place to call home. Please vote Bill Velta for mayor of Upland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our candidates this evening, and I wish you well as you move forward with your elections. I also want to encourage our audience to reach out to your elected officials with questions, to ask them about their positions on the issue. They are very accessible, as you have seen tonight, and would love to share with you their ideas. So tomorrow night, we'll be back with the City Council and Treasurer candidates, same time, same place. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.